Good evening, it's 6:30. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Katie, would you perform a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Councilwoman Gottschall.
Here.
Councilman Duran.
Here.
Councilman Jackson.
Here.
Councilman Looper.
Here.
Councilwoman Camp. Here. Councilman Tucker. Mayor Nichols.
Here. Let the minutes reflect that Councilman Tucker did inform me he's working out of town tonight, so I would accept the motion to excuse.
I'll make a motion to excuse.
Second.
Councilman made a motion to approve Councilman Tucker's absence due to work, second by Councilman Jackson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? He's excused. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting, October 28, 2025. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes from October 14th, 2025 regular council meeting. Approval of the bills through October 23rd, 2025 in the amount of $486,676.93. Award a bid to Sanity Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $19,688.28 for the network storage refresh. Council?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Councilmember Looper made a motion to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Councilwoman Camp. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consent agenda was approved. Item 2, the agenda.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to remove item number 8K, the discussion and approval of the 2026 sublease for the Moffat County Public Safety Center. Item number 11A, the executive session, and item 12A, action for City Council to approve the negotiated offer and authorize the mayor to execute the personal agreement consistent with the terms discussed in executive session regarding item number 3.
Have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Councilman Jackson made a motion to amend the agenda, seconded by Councilman Duran. Any discussion? All in favor to amend the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next item to approve the amended agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Councilman Duran made a motion to approve the amended agenda, seconded by Councilman Jackson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The amended agenda is approved. Item 3, presentations. Jennifer Riley, Chief Executive Officer, Memorial Regional Health, to give an update on Memorial Regional Health and to extend an invitation to Memorial Regional Health's 75th anniversary. Good evening, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you guys for inviting me and having me tonight. I really appreciate it. I just think it's a great opportunity to come and share with you some wonderful things that have been happening at the hospital and recognize that we've spent 75 years serving this community. So go ahead. So tonight I want to share a lot of information about what's currently happening, but also be reflective about where we have come from. On the screen are some pictures that I pulled from our archives. The two photos on the left, the upper left-hand corner was our swearing-in ceremony back in 1948. And the lower left-hand corner is what the hospital looked like when it originally opened in 1950. And it was actually, the main entrance was off of the Tucker Street side of the building. When I was born, it was on the Russell Street side. That's the only side I knew back then. And then the other pictures are what our buildings look like today. So our mission is to improve the quality of life for the communities we serve through patient-centered healthcare and service excellence. And our vision is to be the first choice for patients and providers and employees. And our values are our choice values: compassion, humility, ownership, integrity, commitment, and excellence. And that's what guides us as we make plans for the future and as we decide about what we're going to work on for the coming years. When I was pulling information out of the archives, thank you. When I was pulling information out of the archives, I went through the timeline, and a lot of this I didn't know offhand, and I didn't really know a lot about how the hospital came into existence, but it really was a community effort that started back in 1946. In 1946, the hospital that served this community was in Hayden. That building still exists in Hayden. It's up on the hill south of town, but that was the closest hospital, and the community and our community physicians felt like that was too far for patients to have to travel. It was too far for them to have to travel to admit their patients, to take care of their patients, and so they wanted to bring a hospital here. And so in 1946, a committee was formed to do just that, and they knew it was going to take a lot of community support. They knew that about 2/3 of the funding would have to come from the community, and then they would be able to receive some additional federal funding. Perry Carpenter was actually really instrumental in leading this effort, along with some other local community members, but he actually spoke on during the cornerstone laying ceremony. So January 23rd of 1946 is when the committee was formed, and then in 1947 they broke ground. On November 11th, they had the cornerstone laying ceremony, and they did that on Veterans Day because they decided to name the Memorial Hospital to memorialize, to recognize all of those who had served in the war, and they wanted to be able to be a community hospital and continue serving this community. And then they opened on they opened on August 29th. I found this date today when I was going through more archives. It was August 29th of 1950 was when the doors first opened here in Craig. That building served as our hospital until 2009 when we opened our replacement hospital up on the hill. And then we did tear that building down in 2021. It was demolished and now is the home of the townhomes that we all brought together. We created a 3-year strategic plan. We did it in 2024. We had been doing multi-year strategic plans, but things in healthcare were evolving quickly and rapidly, and the 3-year plan just was becoming too obsolete after the first year. So we worked with 1-year operational plans for quite a while, but this year we brought forward a 3-year plan. And so that's the plan that we have in place that will take us through 2026. We have 3 priority areas that we're focusing on this year and the next coming years: workforce recruitment and retention, operational efficiency and innovation, and community engagement and partnerships. So we are committed to caring for our community. We're committed to the health and well-being, and we do this by ensuring access to essential care and keeping as much care as close to home as we can. This year in particular, we were able to bring back an ear, nose, and throat surgeon. Her name is Dr. Allison Dobby. We've had ENT in the past. It's been a tough specialty to retain, but we're very excited to bring Dr. Dobby to the community. She's the only full-time ENT in the Valley. Even UC Health has been struggling to find and place an ENT, so we're really excited about that. She is only serving, her only office will be here in Craig. Previously, our ENTs had served a clinic in Steamboat, but Dr. Dobby really wants to focus on caring for our community here. And we think people will travel here to see an ENT because she's excellent. We take Medicaid, we serve everybody. So we're optimistic about the service that we're providing here. We were also successful in hiring a GYN, a gynecologist. Her name is Dr. Lisa Oldham. She will be starting here in January of 2026. She'll be part-time, much like Dr. Samuelson, who was our gynecologist for a number of years. So she'll be living here in the community serving our patients as well. This year we also launched cardiac rehab. This is a program that has been totally brought to fruition by Anessa Kopsa, our cardiopulmonary manager. It's something we've studied for a while. We were uncertain about the need for it. We weren't sure that it was going to be something we were going to be able to offer. But Anessa did all of the work, all of the research, and she put everything together, and we brought it to the board last year to approve as a program for this year. And it launched in June. And since then, it's far exceeded our expectations for volume. Prior to us opening our cardiac rehab, if you needed cardiac or pulmonary rehabilitation, you had to travel. You had to go to Meeker, you had to go to Steamboat. So some patients just opted not to do it because they didn't want to have to drive an hour each way to receive that care. So we're really happy to be able to provide that care now close to home. We are continuing to practice good financial stewardship and transparency. Our last 2 audits, the last 2 years, have been clean with no findings, which is a true testament to Brittany Johnson, our CFO, and her team. They've done an excellent job, but we're really happy about the results of that. We have worked really hard to increase our days cash on hand. When I started back in 2022, we were pretty low. In fact, in October of 2022, we had 38 days of operating cash, and now we're up to 82 days. Still not where we want to be. We'd love to see that number continue to grow, but we've been able to grow cash while investing in our workforce, while absorbing increases in our healthcare insurance, while funding our capital, and while doing things to maintain the organization. And so we've balanced those decisions with taking care of our people, but also putting money in the bank for a rainy day. And as of October 1st of this year, we brought billing back in-house. That was a service that was outsourced several years ago. And it is something that I had some reservations about doing, but with our workforce changes, it's something that we felt like we could manage and do a better job. So as of October, all of our revenue cycle is owned and operated by the hospital. We are continuing to serve all patients in the community regardless of their ability to pay. And this year alone, over $600,000 in charity care has been delivered. And charity care is delivered to people with a financial need. That's different than people who don't pay bills or don't pay their deductibles. That's bad debt. This is charity care. So they meet those financial criteria to receive care at a discounted rate. But none of this would be possible without our people. We have about 375 employees. We are now the largest employer in the county. Our salary and benefits for this year are just over $33.5 million. And of that, of our workforce, 80% live here in Moffat County. We're an economic driver for the community. We estimate that with the 80% of the workforce who live here, that generates about $62 million of economic activity. Now, people ask me, like, well, how is that possible? Well, our people live here, they pay taxes here, they pay groceries here, they buy they spend their money here, which in turn supports the people working in those industries who live here, work here, spend money here. We estimate for every dollar we spend or is spent here, it generates another $2.30 in economic activity. And I think it's important because rural hospitals serve their communities as an economic driver. And we know that for every job we support, it supports jobs in the community. And we take that really seriously. And we want to continue to be an economic engine. We want to be good financial stewards of our resources so we can continue to employ and support all of our people. And we've made some investments in our people. As I said, we've continued to give cost of living and market-based adjustments to wages. This year, we implemented an employee incentive program where every employee, not just full-time and part-time, but every employee is eligible to receive an incentive payment if they've achieved goals that they set with their department managers. We saw on our employee surveys that people wanted to see enhancements to their compensation, and so this was one way we did that. We've enhanced our benefits. This year, we lowered our employees' premiums by $1,100 without reducing the benefits. Since 2022, we've absorbed $3.6 million in premium increases and so our employees have not seen an increase in their health insurance premiums since 2022. We've been really fortunate to be able to have the financial means to absorb that. And this year, unfortunately, we had to hire full-time security. We have seen a big uptick in workplace violence. It's prevalent. It's not just here. It's happening in healthcare across the country. We know that healthcare workers are among the highest workers assaulted on the job. So during the day, we have our facilities team is our security workforce. We have Corey Wagner, who was retired from the police force. He's leading our security team, and he does an excellent job. And then we have security personnel in-house at night and on weekends. And it's added a tremendous amount of security and safety for our staff. They've started tracking security incidents since they took over in January, and they've logged over 170 security incidents. 6 of those were assaults on staff. So it's too high, 6 is too many, but knowing that we have security in-house that know what to do, have the means to keep people safe is definitely reassuring. And we're recruiting and retaining the workforce that we have. Nursing recruiting has been a big priority for us, starting back in 2019. We first started with putting 10 Spanish-speaking students through nursing school. We supported them while they were in school during their prerequisites and also during the nursing program, and we've retained 50% of those nurses. In 2020 and beyond, we've worked really closely with our workforce who are interested in going into nursing, often supporting them with a stipend while they're in college, most of the time at CNCC, and then getting them back into the workforce after they've graduated. And the last couple of years, we've hired about 30% of the graduating class from CNCC. It's been a great workforce pipeline for us. We also support employees with their who are they've done a sleep tech program. We've helped people become medical lab technologists to work in our lab. And we have this really cool new program called MiniMed, which is a 3-day hands-on experiential program that we first launched with the Boys and Girls Club. Kids come to the organization and learn about healthcare. And they learn that we're about 34 different businesses that we operate, not just clinical, not just nurses and doctors, but we have business office and facilities engineering and biomedical engineering. And so we're creating our own pipeline with the schools. And ultimately, our goal, after we worked with the Boys and Girls Club, we've taken that to the middle school and high school. We'd love to start creating education pathways, but from the high school on up into the community college, because there's lots of opportunities for kids who don't have any intention of going on to college to stay right here and work for us. It used to be the coal mines were the generational employer. I think we can fill that need. But they don't know about it. They don't know that there are jobs, great jobs that they can start in and stay in, or they can start and grow in. So MiniMed has been a program that Shelley Steele launched, and it's been excellent. And in fact, this week we launch another cohort, and Routt County students are coming over and going to experience our 3 days of learning. And we want to keep people once we get them here. We track our employee turnover. Last year we had 15% voluntary turnover, which is down from 42%. And after the pandemic, it was much too high. It certainly was the great resignation that a lot of employers felt, but healthcare, I think, felt it even more acutely. Our employee satisfaction continues to be high. In fact, this year, I just got the numbers updated since I sent this in. Our employee satisfaction is about 86%, which was up from last year's 85%. Looking at industry standards, about most healthcare employers have about 71% satisfaction. So we're in the top 10 percentile for employee workforce satisfaction. And we're really proud of that. In fact, a couple of the areas that we moved the needle on significantly was, as I said, benefits. We improved our benefits by about 8% are satisfied. Still not where we want it to be. It's about 43%, but it's 10% higher than it was last year. And compensation was 8% higher in terms of satisfaction with paid fairly for the work that I do. So we're making progress. It's slow and steady, but I'll take it. And our community roots. Since 1950, we continue to be a strong community partner. We do a lot to support our community, and one of the biggest investments we made this year was a $100,000 donation to Northwest Colorado Health for their home health and hospice. And I know Steph Einfeld was here a couple of weeks ago to talk about the need that they have. This program is vitally important to our community. It's a program you don't know you need until you need it, but if they didn't do it, it wouldn't be here. Memorial Regional Health tried to operate it for a number of years, but there wasn't enough room for 2 businesses. So we closed ours down, hoping that the volume would help sustain theirs, but it is a poorly reimbursed service. Medicare does not pay the cost, and it costs a lot of human capital. So we made that investment last year. We're making that investment again this year, another $100,000. We have skin in the game too, and we are hoping that our community partners will step up and continue to support that. We also invest in supporting community events. We've spent about $38,000 last year. We have our health fair that we offer every year, fun runs. We volunteer at our community kitchen quarterly. Our managers and staff do that. We did a free dermatology clinic. And a lot of people don't know what we invest with a school district as a partner. We employ a full-time athletic trainer who works solely for the school district and supports the athletic programs at the middle school and high school. We provide EMS at the games for free. And we also do a sports physical night where we do all the sports physicals for kids, and all the money we collect that night goes directly back to the athletic program. And we do that because we need the schools to be here too. We want them to be successful, and this is the way that we can do that. We will continue to do community education seminars and lunch and learns and come out and talk to all of you. And next year, we're going to be taking a lot of that education out into the community. So looking ahead, we have a couple of big things coming up for us. We're going to continue to invest in people and technology. Automation is going to be big for all industries, but in particular healthcare. We think we can leverage that to add some efficiency. And we have a big facility priority, which is replacing the medical office building's HVAC. It was not sized correctly. It doesn't work. If you've been there in the winter, it's terrible. And we know it, and so we've got to replace it. So we're looking at replacing that with a geothermal system. We got a Colorado Energy Office grant to do that, to do a feasibility study. That's almost done. So we're hoping to be able to move forward with that in 2026. There are big state and federal challenges ahead. Last year, or this year, this legislative session, the state of Colorado had to close a $1.2 billion budget gap, and it's looking to be just as big for 2026. They did not give hospital healthcare providers an increase in their Medicaid rates. So essentially, I mean, with inflation, that's a cut for all of us. It is likely it will be flat, if not a cut for next year. And it remains to be seen what's going to happen with Medicaid. H.R. 1, the federal bill that passed on July 4th, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, is set to go into effect. Some of those changes are set to go into effect next year. That will likely result in a lot of disenrollment with Medicaid beneficiaries, which our community relies heavily on. But it's not just our adult population that rely on Medicaid, it's our children and our grandparents. Our grandparents need it when they're in the nursing home. Our children need it because their parents need that help supporting those kids. So Medicaid is a really important resource for our community. And we know we're going to see big changes with that. So I will continue to advocate with our federal and state legislators about the importance of supporting and sustaining rural health care. And we want to maintain our independence. We want to be here for the long haul. We want to be doing it independently without having to rely on a system for oversight. And we want to continue to work with all of you. So just real quickly, I'll just end with some interesting facts that I found. So as I said, the community built this hospital opened it in 1950. They raised almost $150,000 of the total cost to build that hospital, which was $191,000. In today's dollars, that's $2.4 million, but that's crazy. And then they got a $75,000 Hill-Burton grant. When we built the new hospital in 2009, it was $40 million. So that's the difference between 1950 and 2009. 1960, the operating budget for the hospital was $197,000. Our operating budget this year was $85 million, our net operating budget. 1951, a nurse salary was about $300 a month. Now our nurses make around average make around $5,100 a month. And I would love to see you guys at our 75th anniversary celebration on Wednesday next week from 4 to 7. It'll be at the hospital. We'll have lots of photos. We'll have some snacks. We've got stuff to give away, but it'd be great to see you all there. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know you guys have a big meeting.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate the update and you are right. I don't know if everybody realizes what an economic driver for the community, number one employer. And it's great to see your change in cash because wasn't too long ago we were very concerned, as a community.
Yeah, that'd be December 2019 when we had no days of operating cash.
Right.
Yep.
So great to hear.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Yeah.
So you're at 82 days operating cash, and you said you want to increase that. That's
120.
120?
Yeah, I think the average critical access hospital is around 120 days cash. And I'll say, we're really fortunate compared to our rural peers. 50% of rural hospitals in Colorado have a negative operating margin. We had a 5% operating margin at the end of last year, and we have brand new facilities. Many rural hospitals in Colorado are operating out of buildings like we tore down on Russell Street. So, we made some investments. We had the community support to do that in 2007. They supported a mill levy. But we don't have to upgrade our facilities. We upgrade our equipment, but our buildings are in great shape, and we're better positioned. But the more money we have in the bank, the more secure we feel. Like the government shut down. Luckily, Medicaid and Medicare payments are still happening, but if that stopped, I mean, that's a significant chunk of money not coming into the hospital. So we would have that, the better cushion. It's better. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
comments?
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. All righty, let's move item 4, city manager. Brixis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Start off here, let's talk about, this is not a really interesting topic, but it's water rights are essential to the community, of course. Wilson Water Group is nearing a conclusion to the support for the adjudication of our decreed water rights at Elkhead Reservoir. That's coming up, well, we have to have our lawsuit completely formulated and submitted by November 30th. And so all information that Wilson Water Group, that you folks had earlier financed, has been is working its way to David Bauer. He's received draft copies of a lot of that at this point. The final outcome is we're looking for is a determination on the accounting method that they're using for paper fill of the California Park right, so we can convert that right to an absolute right at Elkhead Reservoir. And that's essential because it offers us augmentation opportunities that we don't have with the current storage right at Elkhead. So if we need water, we can potentially release water with the approval of the Colorado River District. So that's an important feature of that particular water right that we don't currently have with the water that's currently stored there. From earlier studies, we also had to study the water right benefits using a horizon date of 25 years or 2050 at this point. And so what Wilson Water Group did in our study that we initiated back in 2022, and we're just now finishing up, is looking at the historical data for drought conditions and of course rain moisture conditions, and how much of that would translate into some of the most dire. They had to look at some of the most dire considerations in terms of drought conditions times 5 or times 10 in some cases. So over 10 years to see if we would have sufficient water once we complete the plan. And we have demonstrated with this last change of with the California Park right, we have demonstrated that we will be essentially in a very secure position with our available water for the city of Craig as a result of those changes and the changes to the accounting methods that we're using for water rights. So this is all good news, and I think it looks very promising in terms of the water court situation, at least from some of the data that we're receiving. Division 6 is very supportive of, well, I shouldn't say very, but they are supportive of what we're trying to achieve with the conversion of the California Park right. Also wanted to mention to you tonight that there's the MOU, Randy, for the City of Craig with NCIC, which is the Northwest Colorado Innovation Center. We're looking at that MOU, of course. I sent you some information today. Legal, we'll have to take a look at that, but there are some concerns, some conditions that we might want to insert into the MOU just to keep it copacetic for both entities. I think it's a great collaboration between the two entities, and I don't see that we'll have a problem. I don't think they'll reject anything that we're recommending for that at this point. So working on that. We have an employee service award, kind of a late afternoon lunch with or early dinner. The scheduled service award presentations are November 19th at 3 p.m. in the afternoon at the Center of Craig. planners for the event have planned for a nice meal to recognize the commitment and the tenure of our employees, and we invite each of you to participate in that if you could. So that's November 19th at 3 in the afternoon at the center of Craig. You received my report. Are there any questions on anything that I reported on from that report? Be happy to address those now.
Council? None? All right, Peter, anything else?
Just one other thing. I wanted to talk about this NUCO workshop. I also forwarded you today links to a survey that's conservation and outdoor recreation opportunities. We've been working with these folks ourselves off and on, I think, since 2022. And that gives you an opportunity to have a voice in the process. They're also going to be looking for stakeholders to participate in some of the decisions that'll be made. John Miller is our point person here at the county, and I think it's Carrie Brennan from Rio Blanco County. They've designated us as Region 8 for this particular effort, and at the end of that rainbow, there's considerable funding opportunities once we get through a progressive grant process, looking at identifying aspects of regional partnership initiative between Rio Blanco County and Moffat County. That's the hard part, I think, is finding those things that we have in common and how we can approach the request and the feasibilities that are going to have to come through that process. There'll be a public engagement process. There'll be a website development. Quite a few steps before we get to grant number 3, which is the CapEx grant. And when we looked at this a few years ago, I think the CapEx grant could be as much as a multi-million-dollar grant opportunity for recreational improvements. Be looking at things like Forest Service trails. Black Mountain. If you're up there, if you've tried to hike those trails, it's pretty difficult because there's a severe lack of maintenance on those trails up there. Those are the kind of things, but you also have to balance the hunting activity that's up there, so you're not interfering with some of those things. And I think that's, as I mentioned in my email or my report, I think balancing those needs with the private private property ownership is critical, but also we're going to have to drive. I think the recreational opportunities ought to have a business case. It shouldn't just be, let's replace signs, let's invite, let's see if we can attract hikers and bikers and that sort of thing. I think there should be a business case to some of what we're doing, especially since we're losing our primary employers over the next 3 years. So I think the county agrees with that approach as well. So that anyway, those links are important if you have a chance to respond to that survey. That's all I have.
Survey is pretty easy. I did it this afternoon after I got the email, so it's very informative and it takes a broad approach, to what this would look like. Also the balance between our agricultural, tourism, energy as well. So I think it's, pretty good survey. So anything else for Peter? Hearing none, let's move to item 5, council reports. Councilwoman Kemp.
I don't really have anything, Mayor.
Okay, I know the next one. Councilmember Looper.
I attended a Chamber Strategic Planning workshop, half-day workshop, where we picked officers for 2026, and we talked a lot about how to change up our board meetings to make them more productive, basically to be more involved with our members, have them come as speakers, go do tours, do trainings with them, various things with that. We spent a lot of time talking about our long-term sustainability and where we find the income sources so that we can continue to grow and do the things we need to do. We talked about being more involved in the state and local legislative level and issues as to those that will affect Craig and how to communicate those out to our members. And then talked some about partnering with Steamboat Chamber on various things that we are currently doing or they are currently doing, and just take advantage of that. I was at the quarterly Mountain Rail meeting, which was good to see that Megan Lukens and Dylan Roberts attended that for the first time, so that was really good. Also, Mayor Nichols was there with me. We talked about the various rail station plans, both in Hayden and in Gilpin County, and our own that Danny has put together. CDOT also gave a presentation on where they're at with the train and their plans. And what they're looking at is phase one, which will be from Denver to Granby. They're hoping to have finalized and up and running by November of 2026. It'll be a daily route. They're gonna have layover facilities both in Denver and in Granby that they've gotta put together. They're in negotiations with a person to run the train for them. So all that seems to be moving forward. The other thing I found interesting is they're still thinking that they will have a rail line from Denver to Craig by 2030. So, which is sooner than what they said last time. So I thought that was interesting. The other thing that Mayor Nichols had asked and I was concerned about is money with the state budget and the various cuts CDOT and other places are happening, where that money is going to come from. And basically what they're relying on is the rental car increase fee, basically, that was passed last year, and the oil and gas tax credit that was passed last year. What they're planning on is that started in July 1 of this year. And the first year, they're planning on getting 50 to 60 million from the rental tax and about 130 million from the tax credits. And they're thinking that will continue to grow. So they're pretty confident that they can keep moving forward and that the state's budget difficulties will not affect Mountain Rail, at least not yet. So I thought that was interesting. I was at a Colorado Municipal League meeting where we talked about CML requests for legislation. Most of it, of the 10 things we talked about, didn't really affect us. There was a lot of discussion from Salida on their lodging and vacancy taxes, short-term rental taxes, things that we've talked about, and how to move forward with those. The only thing I saw that really might affect us and something that we'll see is, because none of these are things that will move forward unless they can get legislatures to sponsor them, is that the Colorado last year, the Supreme Court, they passed an act where statewide noise limits for property by governments and nonprofits, you can do an exemption because there's a state noise limit that you can't go over. And with government and nonprofits, you could do an extension. What they want to do is they want to extend that out to any cultural, any private business, entertainment, athletic, patriotic event to allow local permitting for similar events on private property. Because currently, the city cannot extend that noise ordinance exemption to those areas. So that's something, a lot of cities, Steamboat, Salida, a lot of the towns, us even, have events going on at local restaurants, bars, festivals, things that currently the noise ordinance would put a damper on. And so they're wanting to find some way to get this added to it. So that's the CML thing. I did a couple of football chain gangs. I spent a week setting up for Rotaries, Diamonds, and Spurs, which was another great event. Next year's our 30th annual event. It's been 30 years that's going on, so that'll be a big deal. I was at EDAC with Peter and Chris and Derek, and I'll let Derek cover most of that. I had, as Peter went over, we had a Northwest Colorado Innovation Center meeting. We had a speaker, Patrick Spence from the National Association of Counties, talk about the disaster recovery planning and how economic development organizations like NCIC and NWCDC can be involved in being prepared and being a one-stop shop for economic disaster. So I thought that was interesting. We talked a lot about the industrial park and having an NCIC Innovation Center there. Basically voted to move forward to get an MOU going with the city. So we spent a lot of discussion on that. And then AT&T, and I think I mentioned this last time, has donated 185 laptops that have been distributed throughout most of the Tri-County area that's in NWCDC. Craig really hadn't gotten advantage of that, so the chamber stepped up and we got 20 laptops last week that we've been distributing to various small businesses and other things around, new businesses around town. So I thought that was great, and that's it.
Thank you, Randy, and busy as usual. So, Councilwoman Gotchall.
I attended the ACTS board meeting on the 16th. At that time, the shelter was under contract, and they had sold the car in September, so they're still making pretty hefty efforts to get their budget under control. They received a little over $5,000 in grants in September, which was down a little bit from what they received in August, but that was just related to timing. And their spending was down as well. So good things came from that meeting. I was appointed to serve on the Moffett County Youth Wrestling Board, which is a personal win for me and my kids. And I attended the school board meeting last night virtually. And then I just wanted to take a minute to thank the mayor and my fellow council members for the opportunity to serve this past year. Being appointed last fall was an honor, and it's been a privilege to be here and learn from each of you. This experience has only strengthened my pride in our community and my commitment to the work that keeps moving forward. I hope that dedication has shown and that the community will put their trust in me again next week. I'm deeply grateful for this year, and I hope to be back on November 11th to keep serving for a full 4-year term. No matter the outcome, it's been an honor to be here, so thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Mr. Duran.
Yeah, I only had one meeting. I was out last week, but as Randy mentioned, we had the Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting, which Shannon had invited Senator Dylan Roberts and Representative Macon Lukens to that meeting, and they both attended in person. Great, productive, and encouraging meeting, in my opinion, and you guys feel free to jump in whenever. But, you know, Chris Jones, the committee chair, did a great job facilitating that meeting. Shannon did a great job, putting the agenda together. And, first at that meeting, we only had them for an hour, but we probably could have had them for 4 hours. Pretty good conversations. They discussed their priority items and their bills that they're working on in the upcoming future. They discussed the reality of the state budget cuts and kind of where, who's getting hit the hardest. One thing that was interesting, we talked about Highway 40 and the passing lanes and all that project. They mentioned CDOT's getting hit the hardest out of their budget this year. So that has been pushed back, and that's probably wise. So just good information from their end. And then later in the meeting, we discussed our projects and where we're at. Our committee did a great job. We all spoke up. Some of the topics we brought up were the affordable housing issues we're seeing with A Street. I think they realized we were having issues selling those, but I don't think they realized how bad it was. So, Peter he put some information together that we presented potentially on some options moving forward to kind of get out of those restrictions that we're seeing, maybe potentially being able to lease or not owner-occupied type of options. So they were working on that. Sounds like they were really interested in moving that forward for us, so that was good. Tom Kleinschnitz did a great job discussing the wolf reinduction dilemma and how it hurts Moffett County. Did a great job there. We also discussed the volume and mechanics of the legislation process with how many bills are passed each year. Is there a reason why there needs to be that many bills passed, and how many bills are passed at the very end of the legislation session? Discussed passenger rail. Randy did a great job presenting on that and on the
RTA.
RTA. Thank you. Discussed advocating for displaced workforce. introduced the letter that EDAC has been working on that we want to send to the federal government that helps not tax the workers on their retirement if they want to pull that out early, and just discuss the future of the coal enigma and balancing federal directives and local realities. You know, we all realize that power plant and the coal mines are huge in this area, and with what we're seeing that the federal government is currently supporting, and how we hear worldwide how we can't shut these power plants down, you know, well, we all agree with that, but what's reality? So good conversation. You know, at the end of the meeting, Megan Lukin said, you know, this was a solutions-oriented meeting, which I thought is something that our group and our council and our committee should be proud of, because we kind of brought some solutions to the table that hopefully they can move forward on it and help us out on. So that was the only meeting I attended to. I did attend the Moffett County cross-country meet. They hosted the regional cross-country meet, first time in 30 years, out at Loudy Simpson, where the boys took first, regional champs, so they're going to state this week. And the girls, I believe as a team, took sixth, but they did have one member qualify for the state meet. So a lot of hardworking athletes, and just good to have them here in our backyard to where we can support them. So, and Katie, good job today with your staff with the open enrollment. I forgot to sign up, but I drove by and saw the parking lot full, so she let me sneak in. So thank you.
She let me sneak in too, so.
I ripped mine up.
Jesse?
I don't have anything at this time, Mayor.
Okay. Well, I think Randy and Derek covered EDAC pretty well. I just wanted to go over, I think we impressed our legislators with the point Derek had. We gave them solutions and not just problems to the 8th Street and the impact to early withdrawal from retirement plans. So Megan Lukens especially commented on that. Attended the CDOT Transportation Planning Region webcast with Danny. Danny made a presentation for a grant. How much was the grant? $150,000 for rail station area development plan with no match. There was a little bit of discussion about the no match because they charge Hayden and Steamboat, I think, a certain percentage, but Danny, Mr. Paul did a good job explaining that, and so we got the whole grant to move that area development plan forward. Mountain Rail, Randy covered it extremely well. I was impressed that they thought they had money to keep moving it forward. So that impressed me a little bit, because that's why I asked the question, because they have gutted most other departments at the state to balance the budget. But they're confident it's going to move forward by 2030. I forgot to add on TPR, there was a lot of discussion about the 30-year plan and approval. Funding, CDOT has been cut, all their funding, but they are still planning passing zones, one in 2028 between a mile marker 99 to 100 between Craig and Hayden. So hopefully, you know, Commissioner Macy's and I have been talking a good bit on these things about Highway 40 and how dangerous it is, and we need to move those, keep moving that forward. When I first started attending these, that passing zone was supposed to happen in 26. Now it's been moved back to 28, potentially. So hopefully they'll still have, you know, more money. But CDOT, you know, they're still moving forward. So Danny, you want to add anything else, highlights there?
Covered it well, Mayor.
Fire Board attended the Fire District Board, presented their formal budget for 2026. It's going to be, it's posted on their website, so if everybody wants to look at the Fire District's budget, it's open for review and comment. Also at that meeting, we talked about opening recruitment for probationary firefighters starting in 2026. So stop by the station, or you can go on the fire department website, fill out an application online soon, and download it. We are getting a little bit critical on staffing levels, so we need new people. So if anybody's interested, make sure you pass that around. Parrot Head, Diamond and Spurs, we helped Rotary with Diamond and Spurs, helped serve refreshments, to put it lightly. Had a good turnout from Parrot Heads, but it was a great presentation. I think the Rotary does an outstanding job there with decorations and making the pavilion look pretty fancy. So, good job, Randy. So, and the rest of the group. Commissioner Villard and I attended Lights Out at the Boys and Girls Club, read a proclamation declaring the Boys and Girls Club is open with the lights on at the center. So that was pretty quick and pretty interesting. We asked, the kids were all assembled in the gymnasium, and they asked for questions for the commissioner and myself, and I only got questions for the mayor. Kids could identify, I guess, more with the mayor than a county commissioner, what a county commissioner does. So, so we moved it on to her. But also spent an afternoon putting door hangers out in a couple area blocks around the city and signs for 6A, Amendment 6A's, the LMD. Not as a city councilman, but as a chamber member, putting those out. Also attended this past Saturday, the chamber put on ballots and brews at the brewery. Quite disappointed on the public turnout. There was one person that showed up, and quite interesting, his comments and everything else, but we handled that, but Chamber did a great job being ready for it with handouts and materials and ready to answer all the questions. I virtually attended the county commissioners meeting today because I had a meeting in the morning, one shortly in the middle of that one. They had two major issues. They approved negotiations to purchase land that is surrounded on three sides by the fairgrounds, and approved the grant for the land purchase for the expansion of the event center development. They authorized Commissioner Broom to sign that and go through the negotiations. Also approved their 2026 healthcare plan, and it's a non-traditional plan with a 4% increase. So, I don't know, something we can look and combine, but it was in combination with Memorial Regional Health and providing some clinics for them for no cost, but maybe something we can look into. I just want to bring up November 5th at 1:30. Energy Community Alliance is holding a seminar on the EOI, expression of interest for nuclear energy development. Our police chief, Michael Cochran, is talking about emergency preparedness and management. So he is one of the presentations speakers for this conference put on by ECA, and it's open and just need to go online and register. So did you guys get that, or I think it only went to AGNC members?
No.
If you're interested,
Yeah.
email me and I can forward you the link, so you have to pre-register. So that's coming up. Thank you cards. I have several thank you cards from Timber Weber, Croy Weber, Quincy Weber, LMA Miller, and Braxton Miller, thanking the city for supporting 2025 Market Steer and the donation that we made to add to their purchase. So I appreciate the thank you cards. It's always good. Ballots are out for council. We have 5 candidates for 3 council positions. please make sure you fill out your ballots or vote in person. So, pretty important to pick your council members, so make sure you do that. I will not be at the November 11th meeting. Mr. Duran, you will be in charge there. Hopefully you excuse my absence. I will be in New Orleans with our executive director for the Boys and Girls Club, receiving a Southwest Region Award, Soaring Eagle Award for the performance of our clubs. So,
A little early for Fat Tuesday.
yeah. Yeah, oh, I didn't even think that, is it? Yeah. Oh, so I'll be wearing some beads that night, maybe. I think that's it. So the next item, any questions for any council members on any of their reports? And the last item I have on council reports, if council, now's the time, is to disclose of potential conflicts of interest regarding any of the agenda items before we move forward. No conflicts of interest, then let's move forward to item 6, public comment. Regular council meeting agendas and council packets are posted on the city's website to keep city residents informed of council actions and deliberations that affect the community. Public comment time is set aside for citizens to address the city council on matters within the jurisdiction of the city. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes. So I don't see a lot in the audience, but now's your time. We'll open up public comment. If you come forward, state your name, address to the microphone. Come on, John, you can come up. Going once, going twice? All right, we'll move forward. Item 7, public hearing. Now, before I open the public hearing on both of these two items, we will let staff do the presentation and introduce the item for public hearing. Once they are done speaking, then I will ask council if there's any questions, points of clarification from staff. After that, I will invite people up to the microphone to either speak in favor of or against. So with that being said, I would like to open the public hearings for City Clerk Katie Carmody to present for public hearing ordinance 1169, 2025, an ordinance of the City of Craig, Colorado, amending liquor licensing fees to reflect the Colorado Department of Revenue Liquor Enforcement Division fee schedule and declaring an effective date retroactive to the date permitted by law. Ms. Carmody, good evening.
Good evening, sir. This ordinance will change our chapter number 512 that deals with liquor licensing fees. As we kind of discussed during our last meeting, the state changes these fees kind of routinely. They add different licensing types, different options that are available to us, and changing our code to reflect those fees allows us to stay up to date with the most current fees and the most current types of licensing. This change also does a few changes to reference the appropriate state laws because they moved the entire liquor code into a new title. So we want to get that kind of cleaned up as well. Any questions for me?
Does this change any of our current fees, or just brings them more housekeeping then, right?
It's more housekeeping to ensure we are removing all of the fees as they are listed in the code right now because some of them are out of date for what can be charged. And they also don't list all of the different licensing types that are available at this point in time.
Council, questions for Ms. Carmody? Hearing none. Public comment period is open on ordinance 1169, 2025. please come up to the microphone, state your name, address, and speak in favor of or against. Nobody's moving. Going once? Going twice? Okay, I will close the public hearing on ordinance 1169. Item B, public hearing on ordinance 1170, 2025. An ordinance of the City of Craig, Colorado, amending section 5.10 alcoholic beverages to reference the appropriate state statutes and to include transfer of ownership hearing procedures. I open the public hearing on ordinance 1170. Ms. Carmody again.
So again, this is to clean up our chapter number 510. It changes the reference to the appropriate state title and the state laws. We also didn't reference a transfer of ownership in our municipal code, and so we wanted to get those procedures in place for transfer of ownership, specifically working with the administrative hearing officer to handle those transfers of ownerships, as well as referring back to the original licensing when we are looking at the neighborhood, specifically when we deal with schools. Because we do have schools that will locate, and a school can locate within 500 feet of an already existing liquor license, but to do a new liquor license within those 500 feet of an established school requires an ordinance. So what this one does is for transfer of ownership only, the original locations of those schools is what is considered versus any schools that have relocated to be within that 500 feet that needs to be considered upon a new license. So that kind of changes those. So what questions might you
So
have?
Katie, so if you're buying it, then it's the 500 feet. If you're starting a new one, then it's different?
If you are requesting a new liquor license,
Okay.
then the 500 feet needs to be considered.
Okay,
With a transfer of ownership, we would look back to where those schools were located when the original license was issued, and so that wouldn't be considered within that transfer of ownership.
We have one incident that brings this to light that we need to clear this up coming up, right?
Yes, correct. I've had a request for a transfer of ownership for a license that is within that 500 feet of the Goal Academy, and Goal Academy located to that location after this license was issued. And so that's why this change is occurring.
Example. So,
okay.
any other questions for Ms. Carmody? Okay, public comment for ordinance 1170, 2025. Come up, state your name, address, and speak in favor of or against. Going once? Going twice? I will close the public hearing on ordinance 1170, 2025. Moving on to item 8, other business. Let me get to it here. City Clerk K.D. Carmody to present for discussion and approval for second reading, ordinance 1169, 2025, an ordinance of the City of Craig, Colorado, amending liquor licensing fees to reflect Colorado Department of Revenue Liquor Enforcement Division fee schedule and declaring an effective date retroactive to the date permitted by state law. Katie.
So again, we just talked about this. This is just kind of cleaning up and being able to refer back to the state law so that we can continue to collect the appropriate fees.
Questions, comments? Entertain a motion for second reading?
Move to approve ordinance number 1169, 2025.
Second.
Who was that, Derek? Okay. Councilwoman Gatchell made a motion to approve, ordinance 69 for second reading, second by Councilmember Duran. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Item B, City Clerk K.D. Carmody to present for discussion and approval or for second reading, ordinance 1170, 2025, an ordinance of the City of Craig, Colorado, amending Section 510, alcohol beverages to reference the appropriate state statutes and to include transfer of ownership hearing procedures.
And again, we just talked about this, so this will update our state statute references and then add those hearing procedures.
Questions and comment for Katie? Council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor, I will move that we approve ordinance number 1170, 2025.
Second.
Councilwoman Camp made a motion to approve for second reading, ordinance 1170, 2025, seconded by Councilman Looper. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Item C, Finance Director Mindy Elliott to present for discussion and approval, introduction and first reading, ordinance 1171, 2025, an ordinance adopting the 2026 budget and setting appropriation for the revenues and expenditures and making and fixing the amount of property tax levies for the City of Craig, Colorado, for and during the period beginning the first day of January 2026 and ending the 31st day of December 2026. Ms. Elliott, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So a quick background on the 2026 budget. We did meet with department heads starting in August. They were tasked with setting, or where they anticipated we'd finish in 2025, and then their 2026 needs. City manager and my department then met with them again, tightened up the budget to where we presented to full council on September 18th, went through every department, went through revenues, every line item. There were suggestions made by council on priorities, so we took those into account, and then we needed to have a balanced budget. So we did that. We had a workshop on October 14th, presented the balanced budget to the council, see if there was any other changes. And the only one that came out of the workshop was we did, from the September 18th budget session, we had factored in a 7.5% increase for wastewater. That was reduced to 5%, so that was the only change from the workshop. Do want to remind everybody that this budget is up on the city website under the finance department, so anybody can read through that. And this will go before a public hearing at the next council meeting and then final adoption. Does anybody have any questions?
No, I think we have been through one almost full-day meeting and one workshop going over changes and comments and changes we suggested. So, again, council, this is one of our most important functions, working with staff to establish the budget and spending limits for the city. So, no questions? All right, council, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve first reading of ordinance number 1171, 2025.
Second.
Councilman Duran made a motion to approve for first reading ordinance 1171, 2025, seconded by Councilmember Looper.
Gotcha. Gotcha beat me to it.
All right, he got you. I heard you first, but that's okay. All right, any further discussion? Katie, you got that change? Yeah. Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, first reading, it'll be posted next meeting
Right.
for public comment. It is posted now. Item D, Finance Director Mindy Elliott to present for discussion and approval, introduction and first reading, ordinance 1172, 2025, and ordinance amending section 13.16.010 of the Craig Municipal Code to increase the wastewater rates fees to provide sufficient revenues to maintain the balance of the wastewater enterprise fund. Mindy, you're up again.
Good evening again. So from our full-day budget session, we employ a company called Waterworth that takes into account all of our expenses, revenues, and capital expenditures for future periods, and shows us what revenues needed to be collected or what rates need to be imposed to keep the fund sustainable with those capital projects and any anticipated expenses coming up. We originally, from that September 18th, had set the rate increase at 7.5%, but after the budget, or after the workshop budget, it was lowered down to 5%. So these numbers do reflect a 5% increase over last year to the base rate for wastewater.
And we decided not to do a
No water increase.
no water increase for 2026. Since we have our water and wastewater director here, do you have anything to add, or?
I don't think so, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Council, questions? Hearing none, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1172, amending 13.16.010 of the Craig Municipal Code to increase rate water rates by 5%.
Second.
Councilman Looper made a motion to approve first reading of ordinance 1172, 2025, seconded by Councilwoman Kemp. Further discussion, or discussion in general? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? First reading is approved. Finance Director Mindy Elliott to present for discussion and approval, introduction and first reading, ordinance number 1173, 2025, an ordinance amending section 8.04.250 of the Craig Municipal Code to increase the refuge collection fee rates to provide sufficient revenues to maintain the balance of the solid waste enterprise fund. Ms. Elliott, you're up again.
Good evening. So again, we had Waterworth do their presentation at the September 18th with the projection of future capital expenses and revenues. And per their guidance, they recommended a 4% increase for 2026 to the refuse rate.
And these last two increases were
So we,
recommendations of studies were performed
Right.
on fund balances and projected expenses.
of capital expenditures projected out. And put this in perspective, the solid waste fund had not had any increase rate since 2006. So without having those increases, the fund was depleting, so it has necessitated having these back-to-back increases. Each year we do, for all three of the enterprise funds, Waterworth takes our new numbers, where our actuals are at and projects, so that number is always going to be moving. So as the balance starts coming back up, rates will hopefully hold steady or, be more minimal than what they've been currently.
Mr. Raker, you have anything to add?
No, I think Mindy covered it good. Like we said, we went through the budget with Waterworth to keep us above our threshold. This is what they recommended.
Okay. Council, questions? All right, entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 1173, 2025.
Second.
Councilwoman Gotcho made a motion to approve introduction and first reading of ordinance 1173, 2025, seconded by Councilman Looper. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? First reading approved of 1173. Finance Director Mindy Elliott to present for discussion and approval Resolution Number 34, 2025, a resolution of the City of Craig, Colorado, to continue the base rate reduction program, determine the cap on the number of participants, and determine the percentage of the reduction. Ms. Elliott, you're up.
I'm up again. So council passed this back last year for a base rate discount for both water and wastewater. Candidates had to meet 3 criteria. They had to be 65 and older and have been in their house for 10 years, are on public assistance, or enrolled in a federal or state assistance program, and they had to provide proof of eligibility. Per the ordinance, council can set this by resolution each year. Currently, the rate that was set at 20% for both water and wastewater for the eligible candidates, and we capped the amount at 340 last year. We ended up with just a little over 200 currently, but we're wanting to get these applications out because the applicants do need to fill this out each year to make sure they still meet the eligibility requirements. So we're asking if you want to keep this at the 20% with the cap at 340, or if you want to amend that to something different.
What was the
A little over 200.
I had recommended 340 last year based on the analysis that we had done. I would keep it at 340 if I were to make a recommendation, just because we seem to have some room under that cap.
That gives room to grow since the program was brand new. Not everybody probably heard about it.
Or were eligible last year.
Right, so gives us a little bit to room to grow for some of the people in the community that need this the most, so. Keep 20%, the percentage?
Yeah, I just need to know if you need to keep this percentage at 20% and the cap at 340.
Okay. Questions? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I will move that we approve resolution number 34, 2025.
Second.
Councilwoman Camp made a motion to approve Resolution 34, 2025, seconded by Councilmember Looper. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 34 is approved. Item G, Water and Wastewater Director Carl Ray to present for discussion and approval of the award of bid for the Alice Chambers Influent Wastewater Pump refurbishment to Brimhall Industrial in the amount of $45,238.28. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. So we have 4 influent pumps at the wastewater treatment plant. They're 43 years old. The piping configuration does not lend itself to easily purchasing brand new pumps. So we tend to like to refurbish those, which has to happen every so often. We had a flood due to some control failure after a thunderstorm in 2019, and all 4 of those pumps have been completely submerged, and we had to take them out of service and try and rehab them, but they need a thorough rebuild now. So we're looking at doing this every year for 4 years to complete rehabbing all 4 of them. So we budgeted $35,000 for the refurbishment. Typically, it's difficult to get bids from pump companies that do repairs and refurbishment because they want to do a tear down and inspection on the pumps before they actually will issue it. So we had to carefully prepare bid documents that tried to capture all the possible things that need to be replaced. So we put this out to bid, distributed the bid documents on September 2nd. Bids were opened on October 15th. We received 2 bids, one from Brimhall Industrial and one from Welo USA LLC. The bid documents for Brimhall were complete. They included machining capabilities, references in Colorado and Utah, and other supporting documents. Welo included information on new pumps, but did not include references or other supporting documents. I wrote, at the time of writing this, I had not received any response from Wheelo about references. I did eventually get a couple names quite late on, but you can see the bids were very close. We have prior experience with Brimhall Industrial, and depending on what actually needs to be repaired in the pump, whether a new impeller shaft is needed or just a refurbishment or neither of those are needed, changes who is the apparent low bidder because there's such a narrow margin between them. So my recommendation is that we use Brimhall based on previous experience and references that are local to the community. In order to accomplish that, we will need an appropriation of which Ms. Elliott will be talking about in the next item of $10,238.28 to cover the difference between the budgeted amount and the award amount. And we have in the budget an item to do the engineering to replace an MCC at the wastewater aeration building, and due to the uncertainty in the nutrient regulations and what equipment may be necessary, I think we can postpone that and offset the $15,000 in that budget item toward covering this additional expenditure.
Okay.
Carl, was it higher just because work has gone up? I mean, do you have any idea why it's that much higher than what you were originally thinking?
I think, we've just seen an increase in all kinds of machining work like that. It just seems to be going up. So cost of labor is going up.
Okay.
So how many times can you refurbish these pumps?
Right.
Well,
Knock on wood and keep going?
until, major problems with the casing or something like that happen. But even, we usually, this bid included refurbishing the impellers. So, but we've had casings repaired, and so they can go quite a while. But eventually it will require a major modification to redo all the piping and put in 4 new pumps.
How long have those pumps been in?
43 years, if I've got my dates right. So,
About time, huh?
yeah.
Any further questions? Hearing none, council?
I'll make a motion to approve the award of bid for the Alice Chalmers Influent Wastewater Pump Refurbishment to Brimhall Industrial in the amount of $45,238.28.
Second.
Councilman Duran motion to approve the pump refurbishment to Brimhall Industrial, seconded by Councilman Jackson. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the amount is approved. Now we got to put the extra money in the checkbook. Item H, Finance Director Mindy Elliott to present for discussion and approval Resolution Number 35, 2025, a resolution to appropriate funds for the Alice Chalmers Influent Wastewater Pump refurbishment in the amount of $10,238.28. Ms. Elliott again.
Good evening again. You just heard from Mr. Ray explaining the difference in the budget and what we need to accomplish this. So this resolution is to appropriate an additional $10,238.28 in the wastewater fund for the wastewater influent pump refurbishment.
Okay, questions? Hearing none. Council?
Mayor, I will move that we approve resolution number 35, 2025.
Second.
Councilwoman Camp made a motion to approve resolution number 35, 2025, seconded by Councilman Jackson. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The appropriation is approved. Water and Wastewater Director Carl Ray to present for discussion and approval sole sourcing for the 10th and Legion Pump Station pump to Flowserve and the spare lift station pump to Exlum, is that right?
Xylem.
Xylem, okay, Inc., Incorporated. Mr. Ray.
Good evening again. So Mr. Paul has prepared some documents here to help support this, but our current policy, I mean, we're going to talk about purchasing and procurement later on in the council agenda, but we don't really have a good provision for addressing sole sourcing in the existing policy. And so both of these situations are somewhat unique. So the 10th and Legion pump is in a piping gallery again. The pump has been obsolete. They were put in the 80s. The pump manufacturer went out of business. The parts and supplies and drawings and everything were sold to Flowserve quite a while back, and but out of manufacture right now. And so for the 10th and Legion, Flowserve makes a pump that will fit in the same basic footprint with minimal changes. And so, again, very unique and would require redoing, in that case, 3 pumps are in that pump station. So to switch to a brand-new pump would require some serious pump pipe modifications and just not that practical to do. So a similar situation with the lift station pump. We've talked before in a previous award for some other pumps about flight pumps manufactured by Xylem. And the lift station, we have 2 lift stations that are identical, and they use flight pumps, excuse me. They use flight pumps, and so we have 4 of those flight pumps. Each lift station was designed to handle both average daily flows and peak capacities as required by the state engineering division for wastewater. And so if one of those pumps is out of service, we basically can't meet what we're supposed to be able to meet as far as pumping capacity. And so having a spare pump on hand is really pretty critical. We actually, at one point, we had 6 flight pumps in service because we had another lift station that had them. And having a spare pump on hand has been critical over the years, and we feel it's necessary to get back to that point again. And so these are very unique situations, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions if you have any regarding why I think sole sourcing is necessary for those.
So the modifications to add something else would probably be massive enough that it's gonna cost more in the long run anyway, so.
Right.
You look at another pump if you can find one that, yeah.
And you had backup before and you used it? That's the reason why we need another backup?
Yes, we used it, and also we had it, at that time, we had 5 horsepower ones and 7.5 horsepower, and so we used our spare 5 horsepower one in an emergency, and we don't have any spares right now for the 7.5.
So with the purchase of these 2, will you have a spare?
Yeah, to purchase 1 flight pump and 1 of these Durco pumps from Flowserve. So, and the pump station has 3 pumps. It was designed to need 2 and have 1 as a spare.
Okay. Okay. Questions further? Okay, council?
I'll make a motion to approve sole sourcing of the 10th and Legion pump station pump to Flowserve and the spare lift station pump to Xylem Incorporated.
Second?
Councilwoman Gotchel made a motion to approve the sole sourcing for the pumps to, and seconded by Councilwoman Camp. Discussion?
Is that capped at 45,000? Is that the top end?
Is it capped at 45,000? I believe we'll be able to accomplish that on the 10th and Legion pump for that amount.
So are you looking for an approval up to that amount?
Yes, sir.
I think that should be part of the
Part of the motion.
Okay.
To make amendment
Sure.
to to include the cap of 45,
Not to go exceed $45,000.
Okay, so I'm amending my motion to approve sole sourcing of the pumps not to exceed 45,000.
Councilwoman
good,
Camp,
Heather?
you second the? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sole sourcing was approved. Now we're gonna clear up the sole sourcing policy for item J, Public Works Director Danny Paul to present for discussion and approval. Resolution number 36, 2025, Purchasing Procurement Policy.
Good evening,
Mr. Paul.
Mr. Mayor and Council, and sorry about this, but Carl and I just caught on that last motion that we intended that to include both pumps with a cap on the one pump at 45,000, so we just want to make sure that was clear in the record or in the motion. There's two different soles.
That's not clear. That wasn't with the motion. So what, so you, one pump for 45,000?
And the other is 16,000.
A cap of 16,000?
Yeah, that's what's budgeted. And the other was 45.
And these are not in your, okay.
And then we won't have to do it at the next meeting.
Okay, so I recall item I. The Water and Wastewater Director Carl Way to present for discussion and approval the sole sourcing of 10th and Legion Pump Station lift pump to FlowServe and the spare lift station pump to Xylem Incorporated with caps of 16,000 for
For the
Xylem
for the Xylem, yes.
and 45,000 for the FlowServe.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay?
I will make a motion to approve sole sourcing of the 10th and Legion pump station pump to FlowServe with a cap of 45,000 and the spare lift station pump to Xylem Incorporated with a cap of 16,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for Councilwoman Gotchall to approve the sole sourcing of the two pumps, second by Councilwoman Camp. Discussion?
The only other question I had, was this part of your budget at all?
Yeah, these were both included in the
Okay.
approved budget.
Okay, but we're approving this because it's a
Because
sole
it's-
source.
The sole source is what we're,
That's why it's here. Okay.
Yep.
And I just wanted, for discussion, we're revisiting this for clarification to include not to exceed numbers for the pumps. So in the motions. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Item I, sole sourcing of the two pumps. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, they're approved. Now, with clarification. Now we'll go to item J, Public Works Director Danny Paul to present for discussion and approval, Resolution number 36, 2025, Purchasing Procurement Policy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council. I'm going to introduce this item, but by no means can take all the credit for this. This was a group effort that they had been actually discussing and working on before my arrival here at the city. But what staff is seeking your support and approval for tonight is a resolution to approve the purchasing procurement policy. To that end, I might lean on several of my colleagues, depending on what types of questions you have. I did kind of quarterback this, so I'll try to address as many of those as I can. It's important to have a purchasing and procurement policy because it can provide structure to the buying process, leading to cost savings, enhancing supplier relationships, improving compliance, better risk management, and greater operational efficiency. And by establishing clear guidelines and consistent processes, organizations such as the city can achieve better value, reduce fraud and waste, ensure ethical practices, and align their spending with strategic goals. So currently, the city does have some limited purchasing requirements incorporated into your municipal code, but we do not have a standalone policy with a 53-page manual that goes along with it. Assuming you may not have all had time to read those 53 pages of material, we did hold a workshop meeting with the Finance Committee a few weeks back, and we worked through this. I think Councilor Duran mentioned that in your last meeting. And we talked through some changes, and we made those. And so this version included in your packet reflects the most current version. I think the only change you did not, the Finance Committee did not see at that time was we had not yet settled on insurance requirements, which have since been incorporated, and that's important so that outside vendors know what the city's insurance policies are. So this is intended to be an internal and external document that we can put online, and people who are interested in doing business with the city don't have to sift through the municipal code and even then it's fairly limited on what's included there. The finance department has agreed to administer this policy for the most part with some support from the clerk and others. Public Works will probably be a big user of this policy and benefit from having some pretty clear guidelines on how we procure bids and purchase materials. Some of the key sections I wanted to point out, we've introduced a conflict of interest. Actually, let me back up. Before I do that, as I mentioned, currently the purchasing requirements mostly live in the municipal code, or they entirely do. So we're going to have to come back to you if you do consider approving this tonight with an ordinance to modify some sections of the code so that there isn't anything conflicting between the two. But we wanted to get this resolution before you tonight. Some of the key discussions we wanted to point out are we've included a conflict of interest section. There is some of that included in the current code. It's fairly minimal. The big one that's probably catching most attention is to modify the purchasing limits and essentially getting those up to kind of current times. The current policy is a threshold of $10,000 has to go to formal public bidding. That takes a lot of time and can potentially delay a project or even lead to additional costs or even scare away people who might be interested in doing the work but not willing to prepare a formal bid. And so we've proposed to increase that from what's currently $10,000 up to $25,000. And anything under $25,000 could be procured via an informal process, such as just getting quotations. And that's in section, table 1, I guess, is where that's laid out. Yeah, page 6. And for comparison, we checked around and we did find that this increase from $10,000 to $25,000 is very reasonable. The county, Moffett County, is at $25,000. Moffett County School District's way up there at $100,000. Rifle has theirs at $25,000. Steamboat's at $75,000, as expected, they're high. Rio Blanco's a little lower at $15,000. Hayden's at $25,000, but looking to increase their limits. And then Yampa and Oak Creek, they're much smaller organizations than we are. They're at $5,000 and $10,000 respectively. We have added or included a local preference policy in there. There's kind of a tiered structure that gives intended to give preference to local contractors and vendors. And we have clarified the city's methods and procedures for soliciting bids and requests for proposals. And that's probably the densest section of this whole policy, Chapter 5. Good follow-up to Carl's presentation there. We've now have a sole source policy. Basically, anything over $25,000 comes to City Council. Anything under $25,000 could be approved by the city manager. There's a cooperative and piggyback purchasing section. We work through the fleet. There's a fleet section in there on how we handle fleet purchases, and we did strike some of that language on electrified vehicles. And we also introduced or have one that's self-performance of construction of public improvement projects, so projects that we self-perform. So I wasn't going to go in any greater detail than that. There's a lot of information there. We're happy to answer any questions you have. And as I mentioned, if you were to approve this tonight, we'll need to come back to you at a subsequent meeting for an ordinance to revise some sections of the municipal code to align with this. So with that, I'll turn it over to any questions.
Questions? Now, council, it's okay to ask this question now before we have a motion. Council feel good? I pulled this off of the agenda during our pre-council meeting because Derek and I spent a whole workshop on it. And our recommendation was to approve it as, right, as presented. So if council doesn't feel, if you feel, because this is 53 pages long, you need more time on this, or are you willing to take action on it tonight? Because we can motion to table this if you need more time.
I had time to review it, and I feel comfortable with it.
Okay? Because this is pretty important
Well,
policy.
and I mean, I went over it and I understand it, but it also, the purpose of you guys being with finance is to go in a lot more detail than I would here. I'm just reading it.
Right, and that's,
So as long as we trust you, we're fine. We don't trust you, then we're not fine.
That's the question.
yeah. Okay.
I liked it.
Yeah. Okay, I just think it clears up some ambiguity and brings our limits up with current times and what things cost nowadays, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, with that said, council, and no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 36, the purchasing procurement policy.
Second.
Who was that? Derek? Okay. Councilmember Looper made a motion to approve resolution number 36, 2025, seconded by Councilman Duran. Now the discussion is, finance did approve this, did meet with staff. We approved recommending to take it to council with a few changes. And I think it clears up a bunch of ambiguities, and Mindy is ready to enforce this, so.
This does not change that if we approve it and it's part of the budget, it's just part of the consent unless there's a difference, correct? That doesn't change any of that?
No, unless it's a sole source.
Okay.
Then sole
Unless it's a
source.
sole
counts.
source, all right.
Yeah.
Was there previously local preference in the previous?
We don't have a policy really at all, let alone for local preference.
I just know we've talked about that
Right.
in the course of the last several years, well, over the last 6 years probably. And so I was just wondering if that was something that had just changed or if that actually was added into it, so.
It was added, and if you give me a second, I can point out what section you can find it in. It's on page 8, section 4.1.
Thank you.
And that was, we capped it at a certain limit there, so if you get over that limit, that's a considerable amount of money, in some of our larger projects, so.
That's correct.
And I just appreciate staff's time on this. I was glad to be part of that finance committee, just because from being a contractor, from a contractor standpoint, I've seen some of these issues and questions that have kind of been a gray area, and I think they were all well addressed and needed to be addressed. So thanks to everyone involved, because it's pretty clear now. So it's going to be a good document moving forward.
I think all the department heads and Danny and Midney and everybody had reviewed this and gave their input, and thank you to staff as well. But any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 36 is approved. K is no longer discussions. Council, discussion and requests for future items.
My only question is short-term rentals. We had a workshop on it almost a year ago now.